Hello. Hello guys, how are we all doing? Welcome back to yet another video, folks. Today we are predicting the Premier League opening day weekend. The Premier League is back as usual, but as like to look forward to, especially three promoted teams, likes of Leeds, Burnley and Sunderland. Right, Friday night football. Defending champions Liverpool will kick off the Premier League campaign with a clash against always entertaining AFC Bournemouth at Anfield. But now, Liverpool having won the title in charge of Liverpool last season, Arne Slot has now been given an incredible amount of money to spend, ensure to their squad remains extremely strong to fight on all the fronts in 2025-26. They brought in Michaels Kerkez and Jeremy Frimpong and Florian Wirtz and Hugo Ekitike. However, the summer at Liverpool have been dominated by the tragic passing of Portugal international attacker Diogo Jota, who died in a car crash in Spain early July. As for Bournemouth, they're having faded away towards the end of last season after chasing the top 7 or top 8 and potential European qualification for AFC Bournemouth will be expected to go again this time round. But Bournemouth, Mikel Kerkez, they've lost they've lost Kerkez, but who joined to Liverpool now. But before we get into YouTube channel, please hit the unsubscribe button. But these are where to be the wide expectations that Liverpool are going to be even stronger this season, but the Reds may find things a bit difficult. Initially, they are aggregated by so many new signings into their first 11, and the squad they were beaten on penalties by Crystal Palace in the Community Shield last week and Wembley. Bournemouth have a few injury issues for the visit at Anfield, but Andoriola will still get them to play against them in surprising but energetic way, but it may be a thrilling on the opening day, and I think Liverpool will win it 3-1. Liverpool will win it 3-1. Move on tomorrow, Aston Villa against Newcastle. Now, Unai Emery is being trusted to work his magic this season, but the villains unable to do too much in the business in this transfer window. But they've lost them lunacy by Marco Asensio and Marcus Rashford, but Villa haven't really been able to bring anyone to replace them. But they've been the addition to striker for Evan Granson and Nice at least though, but for a free round, 23.5 million. As for Newcastle, they're having question marks about Alexander Isak if he is going to leave St James's Park. So, with missing out on targets as James Trafford and Brian Mambeo and Benjamin Sesko, but Aston Villa, a couple of years ago, on the opening day of the campaign, Newcastle United hammered Aston Villa by 5-1 at St James's Park. However, at Villa Park, Unai Emery's villains will need to get themselves revenge. And with the high energy and intense performance, that could end up completely overrunning the Newcastle side that have been endured very difficult summer, but both and off the pitch. So back in Villa may be a good bet for this one. I'm going for Villa 2-2. I'm going 2-2 anyway. Going for 2-2. Right. Brighton against Fulham. Right, Brighton and Albion Fulham will be looking to kick on. Brighton will be looking to kick on towards the European qualification as the Seagulls now take on Fulham. Brighton and Albion has spent over 200 million last summer, but Fabian Hürzeler is the youngest permanent coach in the Premier League history to enjoy a reasonable first campaign, as the Seagulls missed out on Europe on the final day of the campaign. But the Seagulls has been again reasonably busy this summer, with João Pedro having departed for Chelsea and now Carlos Babo by the subject of interest from Manchester United, but right now known exactly what they are doing in terms of succession planning. But the end of Marco Silva at Fulham will be on the verge of heading into the stagnation, with the cottages having been firmly trapped in the middle of the table. And with the Premier League for a while, they have had another quiet transfer window. But I'm going with Brighton to win 2-1. And then Sunderland, newly promoted Sunderland versus West Ham. Newly promoted Sunderland welcome to stalwarts, Premier League stalwarts West Ham United to the Stadium Light on the opening day of the campaign, Upper Warside this weekend. For the first time in approaching a decade, Sunderland have gained promotion to the Premier League this season, with the Black Cats gaining promotion via the Championship playoffs last season, thanks to a couple of dramatic moments. But now the Sunderland coach as well spend over 100 million. As for West Ham, Graham Potter endured a very difficult life as West Ham following his mid-January appointment at the London Stadium. But the Irons may well be among of those teams who they are struggling against the bottom three and the danger zone in this year. But the good thing is they signed a few players, the likes of Kyle Walker-Peters and Callum Wilson. But there have been a lot of change overall in Sunderland this summer. But Regis de Bries are likely to try and play the control and containing style of football. But I think Sunderland will cause an upset. I'm going 1-0. And then Tottenham Hotspur. Thomas Frank, who came in replacing Ange Postecoglou, they will take on Scott Parker's newly promoted Burnley. Tottenham Hotspur, Tottenham Hotspur won the Europa League and got qualified for the Champions League last season, but qualifying for the Champions League but Burnley gained promotion back to the Premier League once again. But last season they had an impressive defence record in the Championship last season, but things are already very difficult. But goalkeeper James Trafford has left for Manchester City. But Tottenham Hotspur had a 2-0 lead over Paris Saint-Germain in the Super Cup in Friuli midweek, but scrambled to a 2-2 draw and then lost on penalties. But I don't expect it to happen. I think Spurs will win it 3-1. Spurs will win it 3-1. Right, so Wolves versus Man City. Wolverhampton Wanderers have an uproar playing squad this summer as they take on their campaign against Manchester City at Molineux this week. Wolverhampton Wanderers, Victor Piore, has hit rock bottom last December, but they did extremely impressive job by Molineux on the back end of last season, probably this year of course. But Man City have embarked some very busy transfer window before and bringing in new signings, of course. James Trafford also moving on, but Victor Piore marginally improved Wolverhampton Wanderers last season, but they have made a few changes over the summer. But that could well be the reasonable argument. Maybe they have been circling the drain in the Premier League for a while, but this could be a tough campaign. But City has a lot of work to do, and it may be that they continue to struggle for fine things that are tough. They remain firm favourites to win comfortably at Molineux. I'm going Man City to win 2-0. But Chelsea head into a London derby on the opening day of the season as they welcome Crystal Palace across the capital city to the stadium, Stamford Bridge, for an intriguing clash. But in the calendar year of 2025, Chelsea have been much improved. All belter performances remain underwhelming in the first few months of the campaign, but the Blues finished 5th and qualified for the Champions League on the final day of last season. Since then, Enzo Maresca's Blues defeated Real Betis in the final of their Europa Conference League before them hammering PSG to win the FA Cup World Cup, while they continue to spend extremely heavy on new signings. Crystal Palace have endured a turbulent summer transfer window, while the Eagles have been demoted from the Europa League to the Europa Conference League as a result by John Taxter's stack in the club. Palace qualified for the Europa League as a result, but their first ever major honour last season as they defeated Manchester City in the FA Cup final at Wembley in mid-May. but Oliver Glasner extremely derailed and impressive planning. Chelsea only returned to a pre-season about a week ago, so FA Cup, World Cup exploits, but Enzo Maresca's Blues could well be a bit behind at the rest of the division. Crystal Palace, on the other hand, managed to win their second trophy of the year, second trophy ever, as they defeated Liverpool on penalties in the Community Shield last weekend. But Palace are difficult to beat, especially against better sides in the league. But Chelsea perhaps not fully ready to go. And signing with Palace may well be a good value bet for this one. I'm going for Chelsea to win 2-1 just, but I think Palace will push them all the way. Right, Nottingham Forest are embarking upon what should be an exciting season for their supporters as they welcome Brentford up to the City ground on the opening day. Nottingham Forest have gone through another turbulent and entertaining summer in Georgios Marquez, while Forest being promoted from the Europa Conference League to the Europa League as a result for Crystal Palace redemption. But Forest's key man Morgan Gibbs-White appeared to be set for a move to Tottenham Hotspur, but seems interested in signing a new contract at the City ground. But they have sold Sweden international winger Anthony Elanga to Newcastle United. As for Brentford, it's been a difficult, turbulent summer for Brentford. The Bees have been several players depart, while manager Thomas Frank has also left for Tottenham Hotspur, but set piece coach Keith Andrews replacing him in the dugout, as well as Frank. Brentford has been sold goalkeeper Mark Flenken to by Leverkusen captain Christian Nedergaard to Arsenal, and key men Brian Mbeo to Manchester United, with fellow attacker Joa Visa has been on strike this summer too. Nottingham Forest are in the midst of the very business period in terms of transfer activity, while now what the European competition they will be in September. They'll be buoyant this weekend with extremely loud and potentially hostly home crowd behind them, but Brentford head into the City ground with a lot of work to do, and Keith Andrews will be under immediate pressure, but Forest would appear him firm slight favourites for this one, but I'm going for a 1-1 draw. Really struggling to bet. And then the big one, we have a stellar opening day clash taking place at Old Trafford this weekend as Manchester United face rivals Arsenal, as they both side to get off the mark. Manchester United were humiliating last season, and they have finished off by losing in the Europa League final to Spurs. And the Red Devils will be required in enormous improvements this season. But there have been signs of improvement added to in the transfer window, especially pre-season matches. Signings of Mateus Cunha and Brian Mbeo are also offering much more cutting edge and proven quality in the final third of the pitch. Mikel Arteta has been granted yet another hefty summer transfer window budget, with the Gunners expecting once again a title challenge in the Premier League. They have finally now have the striker in place with the signing of Victor Gyökeres, as well as the addition of midfielders Christian Nedergaard and Martin Supermendy, as well as Nunyam Madueke. Manchester United are expected to, but they are demanded to have a much in campaign, but things have began to look for Ruben Amorim. And the Red Devils over the summer, the home crowd should roar them on at least. Reasonable campaigns. The performances against Arsenal side, that may well be time to find the right patterns of play. But their new star striker up front. But as a result, signing with United at Old Trafford represents a good value bet. But I'm going for United 1, Arsenal 2. And then finally, under the lights, the Premier League football returns to Allen Road as the Championship winners, Leeds United, welcome David Moyes' Everton across to Yorkshire on Monday. Leeds United won the Championship title on the final day of last season, coming from behind to defeat relegated Plymouth Argyle at home park. But then they were immediately suggestions that manager Daniel Farke could be sacked by the Reds. But however, Leeds have struck by the former Norwich boss and they have brought in some impressive additions, but primarily to the Bundesliga. But there will be belief that Leeds could well have more than enough to compete against the drop this season. Everton are heading into the new era with a new stadium this season as the Toffees enter into the new Hill Dixon Stadium on Bramley Moor Docks away from the Gunston Park. Yet their manager is the same man who led them over the 20 years ago. David Moyes returned to the Merseyside in mid-January, but the Evertonians pushed themselves clear of the bottom three in relegation places. But they will be looking to kick on this season with some impressive transfers business being done, including signing Jack Grealish. And wow, Leeds have some business left to do this summer, but they are reportedly closing in on signings of James Justin and the former Everton striker Dominic Calvert-Lewin at the time of writing. Boxing, I'll say Anthony Joshua, and I would say Jamie Oliver, or possibly don't say David Hay, but they still have a strong squad, but a lot of it attack. So, but at home they'll be expected to be intense and energetic. But once things calm down, Everton have a range of ways of getting on the scoring sheet themselves, and so a score draw may be a good value bet here. But I'm going for Leeds United 2-1. That's my predictions then for the Premier League Week 1 predictions. Leave on your comments below and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.